What's going on, Star Wars fam? It's your bro host Chris Ryans, and if you know me, you know I likes to keep it canon when it comes to Star Wars. But if there's ever another universe for Star Wars that I love, it is the one by these two gentlemen, Zak and Craven. I think you know them as Zak Craven. What's going on, guys? And thanks for coming out and talking to me.
Hey, Chris, how's it going, man? Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. You guys know I've been, a big AURALNAUTS nerd for a while, and of course, when I got that email just asking if I wanted to be a character in episode 7, I was like, oh, yes, yes. I was.
We were also like, yes, when you said yes.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, that was
yeses all around. Yeah.
Word. I was at work when I got that email, and I was like, guys, you gotta see this. They said they wanted me. But yeah, I was yeah.
They're like, who? We don't understand. Who are you talking about?
They know.
Okay.
Oh, they know. Yeah, I play the stuff all the time for them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they know. They think it's hilarious. But yeah, it's great to have you guys here, and this is your 10th anniversary.
10th anniversary.
10th year doing this.
Right. 10 years on YouTube. Go figure.
You guys have surfed the algorithm so well.
That's debatable, but we lasted somehow.
Yeah, we haven't been like undertowed or anything like that, but it's
right.
we could use some hydration and some maybe one of those little floaties,
Yeah, the lifeguard is like keeping an eye on us right now.
Yeah, it's like the lifeguard is like he's so new that he doesn't understand sometimes that drowning doesn't necessarily look like drowning. He's just like, oh, they're fine. They're fine. YouTube is hard. Basically, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah,
I know that. But just so, how has it been these past 10 years, just creating this amazing content and getting the fan base together and just seeing the reaction to your work? How's that been?
It's been pretty awesome. It's kind of like one of the motivating driving factors behind making more stuff, because like we just said, YouTube is kind of confusing. Nobody's even sure what YouTube wants from creators anymore. It's they're like, everybody does, some people do everything they're told to do, that like on paper it's the perfect YouTube video, and then they're still like getting half as many views as they used to, or a fraction of their total subscriber base is seeing it. It just, so for us, it's like, well, this isn't going to hit 1 million views on YouTube, because that just rarely ever happens anymore. But just based on the feedback we get from people, and just sort of from the small messages to like how just somebody was having a crappy day and now they're not, or it's sort of like gave them a little bit more to feel better about, or just to the larger ones where we get shout outs from industry people who are leaders in their craft, and who are like sharing our videos, but then sometimes use our videos to like rib compatriots in their field when somebody launches a new trailer, and then another person will just like coyly just link them to our blockbuster movie trailer video or something like that. to be like a part of the conversation feels pretty huge sometimes. But I don't know. What about you, Craven?
No, I think you just captured so much of what I would say about it as well. I mean, it's been a total journey. The last 10 years have taken us to multiple locations with the studio. There have been moves. There's been we've tried to maintain like a consistent style of output. Our comedy feels like it's remained intact, and our style feels like it's remained intact. And that feels good, because it means that we've had some kind of, creative vision for the stuff that we're making. And, we're so psyched. We're kind of driven and obsessed to continue to make it. It's always nice to get, the support has been incredible, but financially it's kind of an interesting thing, because the YouTube game, as you know, Chris, is just like bizarro. And the support we've had is amazing, but that's not ultimately what's driving us. I think we just, I don't imagine that Zak and I will ever stop creating content,
Don't
you
stop.
know, as we go. It's an outlet for us as much as it is us, you know, sharing the stuff that we're making.
Mm.
And the fact that it's like 10 years is a weird number because just from a couple of perspectives, I remember. Do you remember the movie Grosse Point Blank
Yeah.
with John Cusack? He's like a
Sure.
guy who vanished in high school and came back as like a super suave
Assassin.
professional killer. And they're like, it's the whole like crux of that narrative is that it's their 10-year high school reunion, and it's just painted as if this like it's this huge amount of time that like so much has changed and so much is possible. And I'm just like, now I'm looking back and like, dude, we've only been on YouTube for 10. It feels like days, like it feels like hardly any time has gone by, but at the same time, it feels like too much time has gone by. So it's, but when I look at it like that, I kind of can appreciate how we've surfed those waves and sort of survived, and like that, you know, it's not always easy, and sometimes there's months that are good, and sometimes there's months that were like, wow, like I don't have a future, but it's 10 years have gone by, and it's like, well, damn, I'm still standing. Like that's crazy. Like, maybe we can keep doing this, you know. It's a weird. I'm sorry. I was just.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a weird thing when I look at YouTube videos now. Like, I very much appreciate the field of ASMR. Like, I'm one of the people that it works on. It relaxes me. It helps me go to sleep. And the more I look at ASMR, like the artists that it seems to push, they all look like. I don't want to judge anybody because we get judged, but in the same way. But I have a hard time looking at them and thinking that they're not already independently wealthy people who are just doing this as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like their output just sort of matches that feeling because they're just like, it's a video every day. Their setups are so elaborate, and like the accessories they have are just like, you have a full like orthopedic scope. Like, where are you getting this shit? Like,
You're not a doctor.
Yeah, they create whole doctor labs and like orthopedics and like, you know, like they'll have a full lens crafters in their apartment.
Right.
It's like you have to like already be rich to. This is just a fun thing for you to do. So I don't know. It's like, is that the best way to survive on YouTube? Is to overwhelm the algorithm with like an output that is only possible with a certain type of person? But
it seems that way. But I got to go to work, so I mean,
yeah, both of us do too.
Yeah, work is real.
Yeah, we take work. You know, it's crazy. I'm like, how do you do this without having a second job? That grind culture is very much on YouTube as well. You know, it's the hustle culture, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I do love is that there's so many different outlets now, and I'm a late bloomer when it comes to a lot of things. So I am finally realizing, like for BROAXIUM, that I can really put some of the stuff in other apps, other social media things, and really get something out here. Because I was like, YouTube is the only way, and that's it. But yeah, like I'm getting like I just did a TikTok, and I feel like a 14-year-old for even having a TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
But I put our stuff out there, and it's doing great. And we're getting so many eyes on this.
Oh hell yeah!
You know, it's like the I like spreading it out now. Just to YouTube, but yeah. If I can ask you guys this, how did you guys come together to make this genius nucleus of comedy?
That's a very humbling
music.
Thank you. That's a very humbling.
Well, it doesn't hurt to just be geniuses.
Yes.
I mean, we've told this story a bunch of times, but it's always funny to think back about it because it really wasn't that much. It wasn't that big of a genesis. Really, Zach and I were just two industry guys who felt like we had something else to say that we didn't want. You know, we didn't want it to be on any guardrails. We just wanted to do something kind of fun and subversive and put our own spin on it with just like a little bit of professional polish. And I think that's kind of what helped to kind of distinguish some of our early content. It was, you know, trying to really perfect impressions while also trying to duplicate what it actually sounded like in the film, along with, you know, a good editorial and music placement and sound design and sort of this large package. And we just got together on Bane kind of on a whim. We had known each other through one other project that we'd worked on together where we were connected through a mutual friend. We hit it off immediately on that other project. But then, on Bane, which is the video that kind of put us on the map, we were just, I had been working on a version of it before. This is like right at the genesis of AURALNAUTS. I'd been working on an edit of it just as a joke, and then because Zach and I had worked together on this previous project, I called him up and it was like, do you want to, work on this together and punch up these lines and really bring this thing to like a new place. And we started working on it together, and we just really hit it off on this other level. That overdub level was clicked for us in a funny way, and then we didn't know what would happen. We started the channel, and it was the first video that we released, and it blew up like over a weekend. It got something like 1 million views in a couple days, and I don't know what the factors were that made that happen, but I would imagine that that's the only reason that we were able to really keep going, because we had this initial launching point where we just got lucky. It was a mix of luck and maybe, it was funny enough to like cut through.
That was, I remember when the YouTube studios in New York first opened up, and they had like an open house that was like, they invited what at the time were like the top YouTube channels in New York, which it was mostly a West Coast thing. So like most YouTubers lived in California, so there wasn't a whole lot of. Long story short, like AURALNAUTS were like one of the top like subscriber counts in New York, that just gives you an idea of like how low the numbers were. But somebody at YouTube was like, "Oh, I love your work, man." Yeah, it's like, "Yeah, you guys hit it off with the rule of Batman." I was like, "What is that?" He goes, "Well, any video that just has Batman in the title just gets 1 million views automatically." I was like, "Oh, it's that easy, huh? Like, let's do a quick search for Batman videos then, and like see how." I don't know. It was just an interesting insight into how YouTube thinks about the algorithm before there even was an algorithm. They reduced everything in a way that just sort of missed the point of what worked and what didn't work for audiences. I think so. It was like, I don't know. Because then at the time, everybody was telling us that the length of the video was never going to work. They're like, it's insane. No one watches YouTube videos for more than a minute. Like your video should be less than 7. It was 7 minutes at the time.
Yeah, which is hilarious, crazy. Given that now people are extending their videos artificially just to jam in that ad rev,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You mean like padding it out to like 10 minutes or something like that?
Yeah. They always say like 20 minutes is the sweet spot now or something.
Oh, wow.
Like
Yeah. My favorite is the guy who does, I don't want to, well, never mind. I'm not going to start complaining. It's the number one way to just go nowhere fast. But, artificial padding is bizarre, and I kind of hate it. I kind of hate the algorithms. There's a funny thing that happened to us regarding algorithms, and this is kind of off map, but so I'll make it quick. But we did a video that was following the Bane thing. We did a Bane board, which was using annotations. When YouTube had that annotation system, where you could design a button around like a part of the video. Remember before it became like super abused, and so we found a strange way to use it that some people had done before. Like some people would take a video of a piano roll, like a keyboard, and they would design buttons around each key of the piano, and then you could click them. And what that does is every time you hit an annotated button, it takes you to a point in the video, and each point in the video would be one of the different notes of the piano. So it would be kind of like you could play the piano by clicking the annotations in the YouTube video. And so some people were experimenting with that, things like that. And we thought, how many annotations can you make in a single video? So we decided to push it to the maximum and just continue making soundboard pages where each button was like Bane saying something different. And then you could click on beats, and it would open up like new windows and new players with beats and rhythms and things. And we basically maxed out the number of annotations you can use in a single YouTube video, and it was something like 570.
Was it 500 or something?
It was something ridiculous. Like we had so many buttons in that thing, and of course it doesn't work now because
we had 3 pages of buttons. Yeah,
they shut off the annotations. But we got a call from this MCN, and they were like, yo, like you guys just completely broke the system. They're like, we've never seen so many click-throughs with annotations on a video. Like, what's your secret? bros, and it was like, oh man, you suck.
They were like, how do we do this to get people to click on ads? Like that was their,
Yeah.
their
They were like,
that's
can we
all they
just fill
saw.
up 4 pages of ads because you broke the system with your like they were not interested in how we had just maxed out the number of annotations for a joke. They just saw that people were clicking through and didn't even care about why, which is the ultimate stupid reason to like make the leap that somehow we had found a great way to like get ad revenue for a video.
Could you imagine if we made a board that was meant to be interactive in real time and every single click took you to an ad like that?
To like a to like a pharma. I mean, I just like it to me that encapsulated so much about the YouTube philosophy, and what they're looking for with creators, and we've always had bad experiences with MCNs because they don't seem to want to put any kind of actual support. They just kind of want you to fit into a system as cleanly as possible, and it's one of the reasons also that we've always had trouble taking on a sponsor for any of our videos. It's just we have strange lines that are sort of self-imposed, and that's probably hurt the growth of our channel a bit. But also, life is short, right? Like why?
I look back and I like that you could watch any of our videos and they're not aged by some ad for a company that may or may not even exist anymore.
Right.
We do sometimes leave room for ads, but it'll just be one we make up. It's like NordVPN parodies, and I don't know. It's just I can't imagine there just being an ad in
which some people thought was real somehow.
Yeah. We did. My favorite was Angry Porg. That was from Kylo Ren's sponsor. We made like a graphic for it and everything, like put it in a phone case and made it look like a mobile game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but that paints a little bit of a picture.
Yeah. So if we get what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna do this in a Benjamin Button kind of way. We're gonna start at your current stuff. We're gonna go all the way back to the Jedi Party saga. But let's talk about the Andor video that you guys just put out. That thing had blown up. I got people who don't even know that like coming to me like they didn't even know that I was part of the stuff that you guys have done. They were like, "Yo, have you seen this? This Andor?" Like my roommate's like, "Yo, have you seen this? Is Andor 75?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this joint is dope." Can you guys talk about like how that came about? Oh, actually, one thing I'll tell you this: when I was watching Andor, like any new Star Wars thing I watch, I'm like, can they do something with that?
Oh yeah,
and Andor is so different from everything else. And I'm
it's also all about Andor.
It's also good. It's I feel like it's objectively good. So it's which makes our jobs harder.
Exactly.
Well, a lot of our jokes come from just sort of our own like projected criticisms of the source material in a fun way. Like we try to like be like kind about it. Like, hey, this is funny because this dialogue wasn't great or something like that. We kept calling that guy Pumpkinhead because of all the and Larry because of all the fan feedback about the design of the character. So with Andor, that's just making a cool cover is kind of like the best thing you can do with it.
I'm just going through the different. I'm like, I don't know, can they like the prison arc? I was like, can they?
I don't think
do anything with that.
We have never talked about doing an overdub of Andor, or trying to repurpose that narrative in the way that we have done with other, Disney.
That's funny because there's like sometimes a conversation where like Book of Boba Fett comes out, and sometimes people will be like, "Oh, it's like Disney made this for AURALNAUTS." But sometimes I'm thinking about how can Disney make it AURALNAUTS proof? And it's like it turns out just make a show good with like make it like with sincerity and really try to build out on the world, and you're good to go. You're safe. That's a little cocky to say, but it is like there is like a parody proof way to do it, which is just to really just care about what you're making in a way that maybe it is not necessarily the case with some of the shows. I think when they worry too much about the fan base is when things start to maybe go off the rails a little bit.
I hear that.
Well, let's see. And so Andor, it happened pretty quick. We had done a video of Boba Fett in 1985, similar premise where it's placing, doing a retro version of the theme song and the show open in a certain style, and we were trying to also place it sort of chronologically as part of a sort of an additional conceit. If Andor took place, if Star Wars was happening chronologically in terms of when the franchise, films and TV were released, Andor would be sometime in the 70s before A New Hope.
Yeah.
And but it came together pretty quickly. I mean, I think we didn't know that we were going to do it until a couple weeks before the season finale, and it was like, hey, maybe Andor would be the music. The score by Nicholas Britell is incredible.
Yeah.
I've just been loving the score so much. And his use of sort of like synth wavy elements, but with classical scoring, and his thematic work, the way that his thematic work was integrated within the show. For example, like the bell tower operator, his bell tones were actually one of the musical themes that's been used in the show. So that stuff was like fascinating to us, and we thought it would just be a fun thing to work from in terms of building a cover. Would be to kind of do something that's kind of in his style, but also with like a 70s flair, since that was the time period that we were putting it into. And I mean, it's fairly straightforward of a project, but the fun is in, there's so much fun to be had in the edit and finding those moments of, how does something feel 70s?
Right.
Yeah.
What makes music feel like the 70s?
Yeah, we do a little research together with like the shows from the era. A lot of people in the chat or in the comments kind of were correctly pointing out like, oh, this reminds me of this.
Doctor Who.
It's like, a little Doctor Who, maybe a little Space 1999 for visual.
Yeah, Space 1999
references.
season 2 was like a major influencer. We'll go to particular things for influences for sure. You have to do that when you're looking to emulate something from a period. It was a little bit different than from Boba Fett in 1985. I think Boba Fett 1985 we were poking fun at the show a bit with our VO, the voiceover guy.
He never takes no for an answer.
Yeah, until he does.
He never takes no, and then he's like, and then I did it, and then I'll do it. I said I'll do it.
And I think we'd like to do more of those show opens that are styled, in other ways. I for sure. Strange New Worlds is going to be up next. We'll probably be trying to release that around like the second season. Loving Strange New Worlds, and it'd be nice to start looking at other franchises opposed to just always hitting Star Wars. We're kind of feel kind of locked into Star Wars sometimes, and even though we do love the franchise, we're not weirdly sort of obsessed with only making Star Wars content, even though it might kind of seem that way.
Yeah, Star Wars kind of like feeds into itself a little bit because of what we've established. Sometimes there's just jokes already there based on premises or characters we've created. So it's like, well, we can just build off of this if we want to do this project, and then it just becomes a little like more feasible or approachable than something maybe that is entirely from scratch. So it's. We also don't know how well the studios will always play with our stuff. There's some like Disney is very fan film friendly. And before that, Lucasfilm was, but then there's companies that just the second you upload anything with any footage of it, your video gets like blocked or monetized for them. So it's like, oh, that sucks. Like didn't even consider, and then you just dispute it, and they just immediately turn around to rejection of your dispute. There's no wiggle room with some other movie studios. So if it's
would this be your first time? Like, if you're doing Strange New Worlds, would this be the first time with something from Paramount? Like, do you know how they are with that kind of stuff?
Was Hobbit Paramount?
No.
New Line, I think.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings was, but I can't remember. We did a Beat It cover with the Hobbit film,
yeah.
and that studio, whatever studio that was, like monetized it. They claimed it. So
yeah, it wasn't Paramount. We haven't done anything with Paramount. I think we
Transformers. We did Transformers. That's Paramount.
Yeah. Okay.
They claim it. Yeah, they claim the shit out of that.
But I'm thinking that with these, I think it depends on how far you go to warp the. Not to use that.
I was about to say.
Drive the warp into the
like for example, if we're looking at doing Strange New Worlds, if we're doing that same kind of similar conceit, would place the show open somewhere in the 60s, like the mid 60s, if we're coming in before the original series of Star Trek, right? So done in that style, I don't know that we'd be using a ton of footage from the show. We'd probably be using, like, if anything, headshots in some kind of framed in the center, or so it's like a sort of a soft, like Kia feathered vignette around it or something like that, or just shots of the ship continuously flying past reveals of the stars of the show in text form, something like that. We try to when we do homages, we try to be as close to the concept as possible while adding in our own flair. So for example, what would Strange New Worlds, the TV show from 1964, look like previous to Star Trek, the original series? It would be probably black and white, because color was happening right around 65. As far as we can tell, shows started making the switch over, like Lost in Space went from black and white to color, I think around 1965.
Yeah, we actually do research on like when color TV was invented versus when it became like prolific.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something like that. And then we want to try to emulate probably the way that one of the things that we do when I think a lot of people do retroized versions. It's just a fun space to play in. It's not like we didn't even come close to doing it first. That would be ridiculous. A lot of people have done things like that for a long time. But what we try to do is take it one step further in our own way by doing our own stylized versions of the music. And people have done that as well. But that's one way that we try to sort of add our own bit to it. So we would be doing a cover of the Strange New Worlds theme song in a style that we would try to make sound like it came out before the original Star Trek theme by Alexander Courage, right? So it would be, it's probably going to be like a soprano singing the lead melody. It's going to be like a jazz ensemble / orchestra, doing, filling in all the gaps, and
maybe some bongos. You never know.
Yeah, definitely some bongos in there. And I don't know if that's a style that we can really do. I mean, I'm sort of the composer, sort of producer on a lot of those levels in our team, and it's like not sure, just kind of thinking it through. Like I don't know, but I'll give it a shot.
That'd be dope. I'm already hyped for that, because I love that theme song. So hearing that in a different manner would be super dope. But here's one thing from Andor that I was wondering about, because I don't know if this happened with y'all, because I think we're almost around the same age. When Andor leaves Ferrix and goes to Niamos, I, for a split second, thought that Disney Plus had switched and turned on Miami Vice. And because I was just watching, I was like,
we called it Space Miami. That was just
Space
I
Miami.
actually called it Space Jersey at first. It looked a little bit too grimy to be Miami. I was like, no, that's Jersey Shore. Like that's definitely like Wildwood, New Jersey.
I was just like, did they turn on something else? Did I? Am I still watching Andor? I'm like, okay. Have you guys thought about doing like a Miami Vice kind of parody-ish kind of on that thing? I've seen other people try, but it's kind of
Yeah.
But
I think we'd probably try anything.
That'd be pretty funny. You just have to use I think the only way it would work is if you just use the original Miami Vice track and then just cut it to Andor footage with that wailing electric guitar and
yeah.
I think maybe bongos, though there's like electronic drums in there.
Yeah, I suppose we could do another cover of the Andor theme in the Miami Vice style.
He is walking around with his, chest hanging out, like half buttoned up shirt. It's,
He's like,
that episode
looking at my chest hair, my taco meat. You see that?
Yeah,
look at
the
me
taco
go.
meat. That episode is where shit got really real for me because I was just like, yo,
yes.
he just got stop and frisked and then just thrown into the prison industrial complex. No wonder fans hate this show. It's just it's too real,
bro. I like that hit home like that hit home like crazy.
The way that cop was, I called him cop. See, it's already like, but the stormtrooper, the way he was kind of like double speaking him into a trap, which is like, damn, they got that languaging figured out. That makes stormtroopers scary. They have the authority to just put you away.
I was like, this is getting too real. Is there a
But
lightsaber somewhere? Somebody
please just show this man some magic.
Sure the lightsaber is coming. I'm sure it'll be there.
That answered a lot of questions too that people had, like, oh, clones built all the ships. It's like, no, they built their empire the same way any empire builds themselves up. It's slavery. Yeah, that's it, slave labor.
Yeah, God,
that just made me love the show even more. I was like, that makes the bad guys truly bad. It explains to you how bad they could be. And just seeing how all these people operate, like the Bureau, seeing how like paranoid they always were of competition, that made the Emperor scary by extension because they were all just basically like flittering around in his shadow, trying to remain like combination of like seen but not noticed in the wrong way. It was just like this crazy balance that they had to strike for fear of like bureaucratic punishment, not shot by lightning. It was like, no, your career will be over, and that is worse than death. It's I just gave him a little, I don't know, we're going into the show now, but I just fucking love that show so much.
Like that whole thing with the ISB gave me the what's the term that we use, crabs in a bucket.
That's
kind
exactly
of thing,
what it is.
And that was just oof. I love how it kind of got real because even Rogue One, I was like, this, considering what year it came out and what was about to happen for us politically, I was like, this could be us in a little bit.
Rogue One introduced like conscientious objection and like how that was dealt with or seen, and then you got like real power struggles with Krennic just showing up, and for us right away he seemed kind of like a badass because he had like death troopers, and then like you see him in his work environment and he's kind of a bitch. You're like, oh man, there's like a little bit of a climb going on here. It's some bureaucratic competition. You didn't really see Vader just promoted in the old Star Wars. Vader just promoted people by killing predecessors. He was like, now you're in charge. Like, oh, great. I'll try and not say the wrong thing ever.
Take his medals and put it on your shirt.
Get his
to the work.
Get his socks. Get his socks. Time to my hut. Got a little Patrice O'Neill going on there. I love it.
He's paralyzed.
I don't know. We may be dipping now into too much like inside jokey here.
So let's switch gears to one of my and I love this show, absolutely did. And that's Kenobi.
Oh yeah.
And how that came about. How were you able to, man? Listen, the way you took elements from the prequels that you guys did, the Jedi Party, that trilogy, and work that into where now society is not so much into the whole dance thing, the dance fighting. Now it's the strut. And can you kind of go into how you massage that stuff from the Jedi Party trilogy into what you did with what you guys did with Kenobi?
Wow, where to even begin on that? I think the strangest thing about Kenobi was that we were guessing. Oftentimes when you have hindsight to work with, it makes your job so much easier if you're going to be, weaving in criticisms or trying to tell your story. Like, it's just so easy to take up something that's been preset, that's on a track, and then change the context once you have that story already established. All of that work, all of the relationships in the film, in the characters are already worked out. So when you take something like one of the prequel films and you just say what's our new story, you've already got something to work with. In this case, we were just completely guessing what was going to be happening in Kenobi. So we made multiple trailers for our own overdub series that were like laying out the whole story
Right.
of what we thought was going to happen. And we made some, a lot of predictions that seemed to work out in our favor. And then some that didn't quite work out. Like, we thought Pumpkinhead was going to be more of a character in the series, and then he turned out to not be a character at all in the series. And then, of course, we made some educated guesses that we knew had to work out. So, for example, we knew that Hayden Christensen was in it. So we knew that there was going to be all kinds of confrontations and things between, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. So, we started working out our story earlier based on guesses about the series. And our original plan was going to be to try to keep up with the show in real time and do an overdub like every couple of weeks, like right behind each episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the episode was unfolding, we realized like super quickly that was not going to work. Once we like Leia, okay, she's in it. Is she a big player? Like, we don't know. So we had to kind of start thinking we have to wait to see how the story is going to unfold, because to tell a good story, you need to have that bigger picture to work with. So instead of trying to willy-nilly figure it out as it went, we just kind of let it flow. And then we were writing as the show was being released in real time.
Yeah. Then a couple times we'd watch, I think once or twice we even watched episodes for the first time with each other. We definitely did it for the first episode. We premiered, we got together on Discord and we're like, let's do this. And we're kind of like, it was a weird journey because the first episode came out and we were like, okay, like this seems like it might be promising. Like, Ewan McGregor was really good. There was a lot of like emotional trauma in his character that seemed intriguing, and we're like, wow, we got like a war hero who's got crazy PTSD from like being a commander who failed his men. Like, that's deep. Like, you could really do something with that. And then they fucking didn't. And it was like, I don't know, they didn't capitalize on the potential of Obi-Wan's character in a way that Ewan McGregor could to play to his strengths that he demonstrated in the first episode. Like, he put a lot out there in the first episode that I connected with emotionally, that I felt like could have been really great if they just ran with it. But the way they went, it just made it less personal and made it too Star Warsy, if that makes sense. Like, they cared more about connecting Star Wars dots than they cared about like telling Obi-Wan Kenobi's story from his perspective, It was like, remember the Inquisitors? All your knowledge of the cartoons is now about to pay off, and it's, I wasn't interested in that.
There was the conceit of older Obi-Wan, and that was major for us. Older Obi-Wan being able to tell his story to Luke, Alec Guinness, became a huge factor in our ability to keep our narrative free and flowing in a lot of directions that we might not have been able to, without that framing device. How do you, creating a context or warping a context is tricky if you're just going off of the source material, because you have to do a lot of work with exposition and you have to have the characters explaining things. And so with this framing device of Alec Guinness, just being able to just say whatever he wants to Luke, gave us the ability to take the storyline basically in any direction that we wanted to. And that the way that came about was pretty interesting, because huge shout out to Monty, who is the the guy who voices
Amazing.
older Alec Guinness. The guy is he's brilliant and he's hilarious to work with. He reminds me of Robin Williams in the way that he just goes off on these tangents. Like his mind is races at high speeds, and like sessions with him kind of get out of control sometimes because he just like will start going off in directions, as multiple characters, and it's amazing. But he had done Alec Guinness for us on a couple other projects, and and multiple voices as well, other characters and things like that. But he started vamping one time as Alec Guinness, just sort of reminiscing about the old days. Like he was Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan, reminiscing about the old days, going off on like Vader and how Vader loves leather and used to hit like these bondage clubs. And like it sort of spawned this idea like that maybe we could develop a like a story time with Obi-Wan, and it would be just an image of like Alec Guinness like telling stories about his past, and they're all complete fabrications, and then when it came time to develop Larry, that idea just we sort of lifted that idea and dropped it right into Larry as the thing. And that gave us the ability to just do what we needed to do and keep the story rolling forward. And like we tried to keep the story dumb as possible while still keeping the storyline going from our previous things. Like that's always the weird thing. You can't get too serious, but then you still want people to be emotionally invested, which is kind of a funny thing. So finding that balance is tricky, but it's always cool when we feel that maybe it's clicked.
It definitely did. Oh my God.
Like we love that so much when people talk about how, Obi-Wan handing off the lightsaber and the last laser master being this player, like when people say that resonated with them on an emotional level, it's like, wow, okay, that's really incredible for us to hear. Like
it's a good challenge. Make something funny and dumb, but still like something that they have to somewhat care about what's happening on screen to keep coming back and really enjoying it. So it's to be able to succeed at that level is always feels amazing. So it's and old Obi-Wan carried us through a lot of the transitions. We could establish entire premises just by him talking about like the episode where they ended up, it was like going to Sea World, to Spa World, and like we're like, how do we get here? This is like such a huge departure from where they were. It doesn't make any sense. It didn't make sense in the show. It makes even less sense here. And then you just bring in Alec Guinness to just explain like what it is and why they're going and what their goal is there. It helped us out a lot. Sometimes he wasn't in the show at all. Like sometimes we didn't need old Obi-Wan. Maybe he'd come in for like an opener and then he'd close it out, but he'd be largely absent. Sometimes over half the content was old Obi-Wan just talking. So it was it was great to have him there when we needed him.
Oh yeah,
old Larry. And to start like kind of, it's a trap, but it's a trap that we kind of are already like grandfathered into. And the whole like everything has to connect, everything has to be explained, like everything that you are familiar with has to have an origin. So it's kind of fun to like add some of those things in there, like the origin of the Laser Master, the origin of Duke finding out about Obi-Wan and like the truth, and when did that happen versus like why didn't it happen sooner? So there's like this, we're always teasing, like towing certain lines, knowing that like our material still has to connect to it in a coherent and consistent way. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, and then there are things that you start to run into where it's like, oh shit, does Luke know that Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, like this guy that he's talking about, are like, does he know that Darth Vader is his uncle? Does Obi-Wan know the relationship between people? Like so like halfway through Larry, we're like, we need to address who knows who here.
Right.
Like, does Obi-Wan know that Darth Vader is Luke's uncle in our own story? Because he's been telling him about Darth Vader, but that all comes back to the original film. Like
Star Wars has a whole story group
about Darth Vader, and it's like he doesn't know that he's his father.
Yeah, and that's a real problem in Star Wars, which they have an entire department for. They have a story group that controls.
Yeah, sure.
Like, how does it? Because that is a real problem in the movie. Like us calling Vader Uncle Anakin isn't that wrong. Like he and Owen are brothers, and that's the implication in our show. So it's like that is not a complete fabrication on our part. So that was a real problem in the show too. It's like, well, Anakin and Owen are brothers. Like, does Obi-Wan know that? Like, what is does like, I don't know. Those questions exist in both realms in a weird way, and ours was like we had to become our own story group to make sure we were catching ourselves when we needed to, and making sure things, even though that's complete irreverent ridiculousness, it still has to like follow its own rules.
Yeah, but, we put in like more work than we feel like is necessary on those levels.
Some friends of ours identified it. They're like, yeah, the rule of AURALNAUTS is that you have to put at least as much time into it as it took the original thing to make.
I'd say, and just so you know, you guys, you connected everything brilliantly. And when I think about like when he hands it the saber and you hear like the laser master, I'm like, that connects it to the to number 6, that connects it to the end of number 7. And I was just like, I'm like, these dudes put in that work. And I thought it was super dope. And it just makes it, not that it's not legit, but it just makes it so much more legit of a well-connected universe. Like, I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. I love the Viewers universe. I love how he connects all these characters between Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy and everything. And you guys have done that, even though like Star Wars, of course, is already connected, but you've made your own out of that and still made it connect seamlessly is phenomenal.
Thanks.
I'm gonna stop blowing smoke, but I mean, I'm just saying.
No, thank you. It really that's really cool to hear, and we're always psyched when it clicks for people, because it's really gratifying when you're trying to tell a joke or make something happen and the audience picks it up. It's always, sometimes we do things that are subtle and we're like hoping that people pick it up, and then when they do, it's really gratifying, and it makes us feel like a connection to the people that are watching it, and we feel like we're not just, out of our minds, because sometimes when you're just doing this type of comedy on this level, it's a little weird. Like we're using pre-existing content in so much of our work, and it's a weird space, to be in. There are like a lot of weird self-doubts and things that hit you. It's like, but so it's cool when things do connect like that. It's very
it's cool too, because it's not easy all the time. It's a weird dichotomy with working with pre-existing footage, because sometimes answers are already just kind of baked into the thing. We're like, we know this is going to happen, so we don't have to worry about figuring that out. But sometimes there's more to figure out than we would have to if we were just making something from scratch. Like, we have to explain this thing and why it's in the movie or why it's not, and these things can lead to tougher like sessions where we have to like solve puzzles, but then when we do solve the puzzle, it's always a great feeling. And then when people watch it and they understand what they're seeing and how that happened and they get it, that's even just, it's chef's kiss moment. It's great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I just like, personally, I just like the evolution of like style and culture over the course of our, now that we have Larry in there, you see like that, from where it went from like frat boy sort of like bar storming culture to like more of like an aesthetic thing, like with the strut and just looking cool, to like Luke being more of like a performance artist, like for like a stage magician, to like a Chris Angel kind of thing. Then you get just Kylo, who's like full blown like TikToker, pop star, Justin Bieber by way of maybe a little like BTS or something like that. It's
speaking of. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to say the pre-programming of like pop hits, like the engineering of hits. But
it's all helmet, man.
Well, Chris, you mentioned the strut earlier. Just real quick, the reason that the strut came into it is because it was really simple. We already knew that like dancing was going to be a part of it because, you know, if people are going to be wielding lightsabers, obviously in our universe it's dancing, but the trailer just had so much walking. It was like, what is going on here? And oftentimes like
cool they look.
we'll just slam some music over a scene to feel like what's clicking, and it was like these guys are just, what is all this walking, all these establishing shots of people walking, worries about the amount of walking.
Like Lord of the Rings style walking, like just
like
everywhere.
This is just strutting. Everybody's just strutting all over the place. They're just showing off their stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It was like let's bring that into, because we you know the whole thing is that Obi-Wan clearly is going to have a moment where he has to ignite his lightsaber for the first time, and then he's going to be back. So for Larry, that was going, he's back on the scene after, you know, disappearing, and that's going to have to be back on the scene as a dance fighting. So, you know, when it came to his enemies, it's like, who are his enemies? His enemies are just people that have gone off in some different place stylistically. They're like strutting rather than dancing. They're just being lazy about
clout chasing. Yeah, they're not
Clout
style. They're not style makers. They're clout chasers. Yeah, it's,
And
I love so much.
And I love how it, you know, you made it work so well with the not calling them inquisitors but calling them influencers. And I was just like, perfection.
Sometimes just the stupidest little changes are more effective than big, well thought out things. Yeah, that whole I don't know. Just I never. Part of the problem with doing this stuff is that you can't avoid the burnout from Star Wars, and I'm just like, because then it doesn't matter how much you like the stuff, that if you like kind of you put it under a microscope for so long, and like for most of us it's different, because like we'll watch the stuff together and come up with jokes, but then like Craven handles a lot more of the post-production side of it, so he looks at it even more than I do, so I can't even imagine how burnt out he must be by all this shit. But
well, I'm legally insane.
Yeah,
by this point.
Because you just start to like, you can't unsee all the little problems presented by the material when you watch it that much and examine it that much and just dig through it and cut it open for jokes, and it's just like, man, this thing that I never even noticed before just sucks so bad. Like it little problems become big problems in your mind, and so then it's just like new shit comes out, and I'm not even excited. You know, Craven was like over the moon when I finally watched Andor. He was just like, dude, I promise you it's so good. I'm like, I don't believe anybody that says it's good. Nothing is good anymore. Like, it's all...
Dude, I think you watched Andor like for the first... Didn't you watch the whole thing like 2 weeks before the season finale?
Yeah, which ended up being a great decision, because then I didn't have to wait. I was so into it. I didn't want to wait the full 12 weeks or however long it took.
Like Andor 1975 was already like in progress before you.
Well, that's the main reason why I was like, well, we got to
can't even watch this because like it'll spoil things.
It was like we got to write some, like, even though it wasn't, the VO didn't end up being that big, because it, like we learned in the 70s there actually wasn't, that became an 80s thing, like the real, like the narrator just telling you the whole story. But like in the 70s we still needed something, so I was like, all right, I better watch this so I can get a little bit better of an idea of like what the show is about, even though it's just as simple as like a hero chosen by happenstance. You know, it's still like important that I can contribute it in a way that is correct. You know, so but then I just, like, once I started, I was like, oh, I'm in it now. This is I'm in this for life.
Yeah.
But like, I couldn't tell you, like, when Obi-Wan came out, I was so burnt out, and then I watched it and I was like, yeah, that was, you know, that was something. That was certainly Star Wars. Like, I guess that's what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you about we'll go into the a little bit of the Jedi Party saga, then we'll go into, like, you know, what's next for you guys. But so can you briefly go over, like, I don't know who had the grand idea to even start it from the beginning, or if you guys are like at the bar, like, yo, like, I got an idea, I got an idea.
Yeah, that's,
you
know,
exactly.
Yeah, we were at Old Town Pub in New York. Yeah, we got together at a bar and let's brainstormed a bunch of shit. This was after Bane. You know, the Bane had a level of success that was like made us think that we could keep going. So we got together at a bar and got a bunch of drinks and just threw down a bunch of ideas. And one of them was
So
let's
this
watch
is
Star Wars. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we had issues with the prequel trilogy. I think that was a starting point. It's often a starting point for us. Is like, is there something we can put our criticisms up against in a funny way that's maybe cathartic?
Yeah.
For us,
But that is timeless. Yeah, it was like the timelessness of Star Wars became the selling point for doing it at all. And
Yeah.
and I like to remind people of this too. We started doing this shit before all these new shows and movies were even announced. This was just like us just kind of shouting into the void. There was no reason to make a Star Wars thing at that point other than just like Star Wars is kind of forever. There was just the 6 movies and that was it as far as anybody knew. There was nothing else planned outside of that. I mean, when did Disney... I got to look this up real quick.
2012.
2012? Okay.
Yep.
So maybe there was like a sense that maybe there was going to be something possible.
Yeah, I think we had a sense that the franchise was going to start blowing up. There was a lot of chatter about development, right, of the different shows and things, but nobody exactly knew what that was going to look like. So we kind of knew that there was going to be just a lot of material coming up in the next years, the coming years, that we could maybe expand on some stuff. But I don't think we had a big plan to do. I think we had only planned to do the sequel, the prequel trilogy, and even that we weren't sure we were going to do the whole thing. And then we just figured that we had to keep going because we we're driven to do. I think a lot of people also think that we're like trying to fix. We see that a lot in comments, which we see that as a compliment. You know what I mean? Like we appreciate those comments when people say like you're fixing this or it's better than the thing. We don't. That is not our goal. You know, we're not driven to somehow like replace the thing or somehow like make it better. We're still just trying to tell our own comedy story, you know, and that's all that we're doing. We're trying to make people laugh and do it in a way that feels like super gratifying. So it's not just comedy bits for the sake of comedy. We're also doing it within this dumbass story. I mean, I guess we're not sure how it's going to continue though. These things just like destroy us, you know. They're so hard to make, and we have a plan for 8 and 9 to finish the series, and it would suck to not finish the series. But I think we're not sure what that looks like yet because we just, as a channel, we're still like it looks like we have a lot of subscribers, but I actually don't think that we do. Like I think that's just like some haunted house, like some empty, you know.
Just bots and
numbers.
bots and like inactive accounts and shit like that.
It's kind of like we're not sure what's going on there, and like we do get support, and we love the support that we get so much, and the community of people are so important to us that do that because it feels like a lot of very like-minded people, and we feel like we're really communicating with that audience, and we're kind of in something together there with them. But it's like unclear like how 8 and 9 might come together. We're not sure.